Welcome back to another Black Clover mobile video for Global. So, I usually hang out in Channel 1, and sometimes I read the chat, sometimes I talk, and I saw something earlier where somebody was asking about some stats, and somebody else gave information, and I was like, I don't think that's right, and I checked into it, and it wasn't actually right, which is, no big deal, but I want to make a video because I was like, man, a lot of people may not know what these stats actually do, so let's actually get into it and talk about it. And instead of making a flashy video and all that, we're just going to be really informative and get into it. So you'll look over here on your mages, and you're going to see your stats: attack, magic attack, defense, HP, accuracy, crit rate, crit damage, crit resist, speed, pin, endurance, and damage resistance. These stats are very important, especially when gearing your characters with gear, because when you have gear, you have also substats and main stats, as well as perk bonuses for 2 pieces and 4 pieces. So you can hit this little question mark up at the top left, and that's what I'm going to do because that way you know it's in the game and I'm not making stuff up just for views or clicks or whatever. I'm not into that. So the easiest thing to do is just straight up go to battle, and you can go to stats. And so some people are confusing accuracy for effectiveness. In a lot of games, effectiveness is there to show you, hey, this is how effective landing your debuff is. Accuracy is not effectiveness, and there is no effectiveness in your stats. The only stats that have any effectiveness is just in the skill itself, I believe. So, when we scroll down here, you'll see HP, and I'll just read these off so that way you can either listen or watch or read. So you know what HP does, and we're not going to read that because that's just pointless. You know what attack does, and skills, attack, power boost, etc. Magic attack, same thing except for it's magic. Defense, damage reduction by the defense power boost. You have your crit rate, and you have your crit damage. Crit resistance, the chance of the attack being a crit attack is reduced by this stat. Speed, we know what that does. Penetration, we'll go ahead and talk about that. So when you attack, a certain portion of the target's defense is ignored when damage is dealt based on the character's penetration stat, as there is penetration gear. Endurance is when you take damage, and the extra damage resulting from the attacker's penetration stat is reduced. So that's very important, especially in PvP. So damage resistance. When you take damage, there is an increased chance of taking reduced damage based on this stat, and if activated, the damage received can be reduced by up to 30%. So you can have a damage reduction of 30% just from your damage resistance. Accuracy. The target's damage reduction activation rate is reduced based on this stat. So, not like an effectiveness. They do have some extra things about penetration, that there are 2 types of penetration and defense penetration, and they differ in the following way. Penetration ignores a certain portion of the target's defense when damage is dealt, but the amount ignored can be reduced by the target's endurance stat. So as you see, you have your defense and then further reduction by the endurance stat. So defense penetration ignores a certain portion of the target's defense when damage is dealt, and is not affected by the target's endurance stat. A character's defense penetration stat cannot be increased and is temporarily activated by skills and passive skills during battle. So that's what that's about. As far as effectiveness goes, let's look into... we'll just look into Mars. So you see your activation rate when you upgrade a skill, and it says taunt activation rate plus 10%, plus 10%. So your effectiveness is here. Chance to inflict taunt, for 1 turn, 60% chance, 70, 80, and so on and so forth. And that goes up to RNG based. As far as a character's resistance to that, I don't see any kind of stat given that says, oh, you have so much chance to, effect resistance. So in other words, if he has an 80% chance, but you have effect resistance, then it may not land type thing. It's just pretty much RNG unless there's something that says 100% chance to land said debuff. There is debuff immunity skills or characters have as a passive for 1 turn or gear. And so that would be something that a lot of people may want to consider in the future or even now for their PvP teams. That way, if you get outsped during your first turn, they're not going to land a debuff. So what's going to happen is your AI is most likely going to waste, you know, several skills in the beginning turn that land debuffs, and you won't be debuffed. If I do find anything out about effect resistance of some sort in the game, I will let you know in another video. I have another fun video coming up where I challenge Yami to a speed challenge battle. That means us going past 10 rounds and seeing how far I can go. So stay tuned for that next week. Hope you guys are well. And remember, be well, be epic, take care. We'll see you soon.
This cowardly invasion ends now.